Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Josh. I am a student here at Longwood Preparatory Academy, and I'm here with my guest, Miss Dr. Asia Johnson, who is our principal, Miss Arkell Cox, who is also our principal for a day, which is brought to you by Pencil. We'll get more into that later, and Miss Cox's daughter, Jordan. So, Miss Cox, I want to ask you, first of all, how does it feel to be principal for, a day? And I guess you can speak on that too, Miss.
I'm a principal forever, but
for principal for today is, I guess it's like a dream come true. I've never thought about being a principal for a day, and to be given such an honor. Education, I believe, is very important, especially in America. We have a lot of opportunities, and when you think about what an educator means, you're at school, you're with that institution pretty much more than you are at home, right? Those are your family. That's the friends that you become. And the principal is the head. So that's like the parent for you, hundreds of people in one day. So to be given that title, even if it's just for one day, that means that somebody thought enough of me to give me that responsibility. So I'm very grateful. I'm very humbled and very overwhelmed with it in a good way.
That's nice. So, how is your relationship with Miss Johnson? How do you know her?
I just met her this morning, and I already feel like she's my sister. We already have spoken in about 15 minutes. We've already decided that we're going to have 2 alliances that we're setting up that will obviously benefit the school. And so I'm looking forward to our sisterhood, because I know that this day will transcend through many years of a sisterhood with her.
That's nice. So for my second question is, I know you're a philanthropist, so why is it important to you to give back to your community?
I'm a part of the community, right? So you want to give back to where you come from. You want to give back in general. It's a given rule. It's in the Bible, right? Too much is given, much is required. And so for me, I feel like that's the least that I can do is to give back. I want to be able for my children and my children's children to have a legacy, and that legacy will be that whatever you receive is all by grace, all by God's grace. And so it's not by our means. And so I want to give that to the community. I want people in the community to understand that we should serve, right? And today is a part of serving, right? That's giving back to my community. But my community also raised me. My community also gave me a lot. And so I will never forget that. And so that keeps me humble, no matter what God has given me and what achievements I may have gotten, or, where I've been blessed. It's because of the community that I was brought up in. So that's why community service is important.
Yeah, so you're obviously a mother. So I was wondering if either of you could just speak on you being a recording artist. I saw that you told me, and I saw that in her bio.
So I'm a recording artist. I'm signed to RCA Records, which is like a subset of Sony Records. And it's exciting, it's thrilling, it's scary sometimes. It's something that I think that if you want to enter it, you have to have a really strong sense of self before you get into it, because if not, you can get infiltrated with just a lot of different energies, a lot of different thoughts that people may have for you. So I feel like anybody that wants to enter being like a professional recording artist, you really should try to know your whys before you enter into the game. But it's cool. It's a fun thing to be able to be like, I make music for a living. But I also think that it requires a lot. You definitely have to be your own biggest self-motivator to get to that next step. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
So for my next question is, who inspires you, or what is your biggest motivation, other than your daughter, obviously?
Well, you said it, that one of my biggest inspirations are my children, right? I'm a widow. We lost their father, my husband. This year will be 12 years ago. He passed away of stage 4 colorectal cancer at the age of 40. And so his mother and father, thankfully, are still alive today. He had a very rare form of cancer and was very aggressive. So he was diagnosed, and then he passed away 3 months later. So if you ask me, other than my children being my biggest inspiration, it is to make sure that all the dreams and aspirations that we had as a couple, as a family, are still carried on today in his name and his legacy. Also, for my children, I have 2 girls, obviously Jordan, and I have another one. She's going into her second year of college at LMU in California. And so I, as a single mom now, I want to make sure that they know that there's nothing that they cannot accomplish. They will never take no for an answer, and they will always achieve their goals by the grace of God. So that's my inspiration, is to make sure that they know that there's always a way to accomplish the goal and to pretty much be the best at what you can do.
Yeah, that's really sweet. I'm sorry to hear about your husband, though.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So speaking on, like, I guess being like a widow kind of in a way, how does, like, this is for like all of you, how does being like a black woman in the industry today, like, why is it important to have black women in the industry and have that representation for, you know, everyone?
Well, if I can speak from an education standpoint, I think for you guys as students, or just students in general, it's important to see educated people who look like you. There are so many different examples in society that tells us that black people aren't capable of intellect, right? When you think about our recent comments from the governor about how black children in the Bronx don't even know what the word computer is. And that was a statement that was just made, which is, one, inaccurate, irresponsible, and untrue. And so when you have educators who believe that children who look just like them can excel and are capable of intellect and success, I think that's most important. It's harder when you have people who don't look like you that tell you could be anything, but society thinks different. And I think when you have someone who looks like you and is constantly saying, you're black and you're beautiful, you're brown and you're beautiful, and you can, and I will not accept less from you, is a powerful thing to be able to see and be a part of. So. And my industry is education.
Yeah.
So it's different, right? Because, you know, there's a need to be able to see more black educators. There's actually only 2%, I believe, don't quote me, but I believe 2% of educators is actually people of color. This is a white workforce. Like, teaching is predominantly white women. That is 100% true. It has been accurate. And until we start to make students feel comfortable, and when they come into the school, they will aspire to be just like us. I've read an article in Chalkbeat that said a black male student said he didn't ever consider a job in teaching because it felt like returning to the scene of a crime. And what he was doing was expressing his experience in education in a school. And so if school feels like a prison to you, if you don't feel loved and you don't feel affirmed and you don't feel a sense of community and you don't feel like you belong, then it will not feel like a place where you see yourself growing professionally, and where you will want to be a career as a teacher based on your experiences in school. And I think that's the important thing that we have to do as educators, is make kids feel as if they belong and that they can be better than us, and also teach this generation, because everyone needs to have a teacher and an educator, and if we don't, then what will we then become?
Yeah. So
Get me on my soapbox.
No, we need that talk.
We like it.
yeah, I guess in the hip hop sense.
In the hip hop space, especially as a female rapper, I feel like personally my mission that I'm on is to show the multifacetedness of being a black woman just in general, that we don't specifically have one lane that we can fall into, that, you know, we don't have to do the twerk music and that's the only thing we got, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But showing that, you know, we're women, we're people, and we're having specific experiences that are not always reflected within the music. So for me, I feel like it's important to be a black woman showing up just how I am, you know what I'm saying? And reflecting that through my music and being like, hey, y'all, this is also something that we have to offer here as well, because it's so many of us that live these lives day to day, and it's not reflected within our climate. So I think that that's what's important to me, showing up as a black woman in this industry.
Yeah. That's really good. That's really good. And if you, Ms. Cox, I guess in the business sense.
In the business sense, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll say, I'm going to do that, right? So for me, it is just showing up as who you are, being yourself. And I think that oftentimes as a Black woman, a woman in a very aggressive field, and that's all fields. I manage my daughter. We actually own our own production company. She was signed to me before she was signed to her major label. We have a film company. I just started a jewelry line. I'm putting out wine. I'm a restaurateur. I own IHOP restaurants. And so all of those things you don't think that a Black woman is doing, right? And so for me, it's just to not say that I can't do it, right? To break that glass ceiling, as they say. I pretty much feel, and I want to tell anybody who ever sits before me with me or asks me, what does it mean to you to deal with the day-to-day life in your field? And it's hard. It's hard because when I walk into a room, my armor's up, I'm already like on 10 because I feel like I really have to show up in a way that maybe somebody, a white woman wouldn't have to show up, or a Black man might not have to show up. So already I am on 10. I'm already thinking about what your perception would be and how I'm going to beat that perception down, how I'm going to let you see me for who I am and what I have to offer. And I think that's the most important thing you can do is show up as yourself, as who you are. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't emulate anybody. You can also you can actually have a mentor. You can have someone that you look up to, right? But you should be yourself. Show up as who you are. And I think that's the most important thing in business, and in trying to have somebody respect what you're bringing to the table.
That was so inspirational. You have a very extensive list of accomplishments.
I'm trying. Thank you.
So obviously, you all are very successful, but life has its ups and downs. So how would you say, how have you gone through your most difficult moments to get to where you're at today? If anyone wants to start.
I'll take that one. Faith. Right? Just faith. Because I've endured, obviously, probably some of the hardest hardships that anyone would go through, right? I lost my husband, my best friend, and the father of my children. Mm-hmm. And so it was just by the grace of God. And leaning on that faith and that understanding that it was out of my control, but it had to be for a reason, right? And so I found solace in what is that reason? The reason is that I'm here, so I'm the one that has to now pick up and, carry the torch. And so it's simple. It's one word for me: faith.
Thank you. That's really good. Thank you. I guess Dr. Johnson, if you want to go next.
You guys know my story. I grew up. I'm from North Philly. Grew up poverty, shelters, 7 different elementary schools before 3rd grade, right? I had a mother who was addicted to drugs all my life, went to jail, been shot, sold drugs, smoked drugs. That was my life. And so if you can't look at me as an example of a first-generation college student who said to herself at 10 years old that I was not going to live the life that I was living as an adult, but at 10 years old, and see that you can be more than what you see in front of you, the examples of people in front of you, then I don't know how you get inspired by anything else, right? And I can't ever tell you what it was other than it was God, right? He saw something in me that was different and knew that I had a different path, and I had to choose that path for me. But I also knew that I had enough examples of people and things around me. I lived in a crack house where it was smoked and sold and consumed on a daily basis. I sold my things being sold to a crack house and went to go visit that crack house and saw those items that I knew I could not touch because my mother told me they don't belong to you anymore, so don't cry, right? So when you're told that at 8, 9 years old, you build up a sense of toughness and grit that you as a child should not have to endure, which unfortunately for me makes me a little less empathetic to others as I'm trying as an adult to be more empathetic, but because I've had to experience that at a young age, when I see other things that people go through, I'm like, you don't know what I went through as a little kid, that's nothing. And so what I am attempting to show is that you can overcome anything, essentially, right? If I had to go through that with no help, and all God, and had no help to be able to do it. I had no one come in and say, like, you're going to be so much better than that. I had people later on after I graduated from college telling me I was supposed to be messed up based on my upbringing and how I had, you know, a long period of time. Now, I wasn't like that I didn't experience that for a remainder of my life, but probably by the age of 11 is when it got better. I was in the custody of my dad. I moved with him. I stayed with him. He got married, had a wife. She took care of me like I was her own. So that wasn't my life story. That was the beginning of a tumultuous start from birth up until 10 years old. And it's so vivid that those are some crucial years that could change the trajectory of someone's life. But I made a decision that I was going to be different. And so my job, I think, is really to help instill positivity in every single life of every single student, whether the ones who are fortunate or unfortunate, just so that they know that they can. I want people to believe. When I say our mantra here is be legendary, it's because you literally can be legendary. And it doesn't matter what your circumstances are.
So powerful.
Yeah, that was very great.
You heard that story like 50 times.
Oh, but that got me with the. We should have ended with that. But no, I would just piggyback off of them, like summing it up into faith and purpose. I would say is how you get through those tough times. You know, believing that you have a reason to be here, a reason to help on this grand scheme of what we have going on, as well as when those days you don't believe in your own self and your reason, then you lean on your faith to kind of push you through the rest of those moments, which is kind of a pillar for me in everything I do, just leaning on that faith and that understanding. So, yeah, I think those are my two things that help me get through faith and purpose.
Yeah. So faith seems like the main thing here for all of y'all. Mm-hmm. And I guess for my final question is, like, you all are very like successful. So what would you say are two most like important qualities to being successful? Just go around again.
Well, I'll start because I personally don't think that I'm quote unquote as successful as these two wonderful ladies to my right, but I hope to be one day. But one thing that I've been able to observe out of all successful people that I've had the pleasure to encounter is just a really strong work ethic. Like, you gotta be able to push through and work the hardest than everybody around you. If you're a boss of your company, if you're, you know, even just if you're working the fries, you got to be able to show that you'll work these fries better than anybody else and have a sense of vision and purpose, again, to see where you want to go and to be able to see that vision through. So I hope that those attributes can make me successful. I mean, I've had some success, thank God, but you know, in comparison to where I want to go, whether that's a Grammy or whatever those attributes or goals that you may have, I think the only way you get there is real hard work and dedication. So that's my tidbit with that.
I agree with Jordan. I would also add perseverance, because there are going to be, things aren't going to always work out for you, but you have to persevere through. You have to tell yourself that things will get better, because you have to believe that it will. If you don't, then, you know, it could go bad for you, because your mind will play tricks on you, right? So you just have to convince yourself that things will be better, and you can persevere through anything, and you will.
Mine is belief. Like, I feel like you have to believe in yourself first, because once you believe in yourself, the way you carry yourself, somebody's going to believe in you. You might come in here and say, I got some ice I want to sell you, and we can fry it. You can't fry ice, it's going to melt. But if I believe it and I sell it to you that way, you're going to believe it. And I've adapted that, I think, maybe at 10 years old. Like, I started to realize that I had that gift of believing in myself so much that I can now have you believe in me. And so it's just believing in yourself so that others can see you in that confident light. But also A second part to that is humility, right? So you can believe in yourself and walk into a room and not say a word, and everybody will respect you because of how you carry yourself, right? Because of the humility. But if you walk into the room like, yo, what's up? I'm here. What's good? Nobody wants to be a part of your camp because of their arrogancy, right? So believe in humility, I think, goes hand in hand.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. That was great. Thank you all for coming here and stuff. One final thing. I don't know if you heard, but Dr. Johnson promised us IHOP gift cards. Because
I did?
I heard it from her.
Well, we're working on something like that. And usually when I do come out to speak, I do have gift cards with me. And I went into my room today and I didn't have any, so I feel really bad. But don't worry, we're going to figure it out. Whereas we may not be able to get everybody gift cards, but I do promise you before the school year is out, which is very soon, I will personally deliver to this media department some breakfast on IHOP. Okay, my daughter and I will come back and we will do that. And I do have, I wrote a book. I forgot to say that I was an author, right? So I wrote a book and I only brought 5, but I would like to leave one here for all of you. And I guess at different times you can read it. It was 200 pages. I decided that I needed to get this book out for the 10-year anniversary of my husband. And so we got it out in 2 weeks. And so I will leave it here. It's only 100 pages. You can read it while you just like literally 2 hours you can get it done. But I'll leave that here for you guys today.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
All right, so this has been Longwood Preparatory Academy. It's been Josh, Miss Dr. Asia Johnson, Miss Arkell Cox, and her daughter Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was really good. That was a great interview.